gentlemen, my name is Brad Gilmore, but you might know me by another name. You might know me as The Boat. And I am here on the Action Industries channel with some exclusive content for the entire Action Army out there. But just in case you don't know who I am, my name is Brad Gilmore. You might recognize me from the movie Trivia Schmodown, where I've called several key matches in the history of the game, as well as the weekly contributor to the Schmodown Rundown with my boy Frank Janish, or coming up next, the new show with myself and Jen Sturger. You can also know me from the world of wrestling, where I've worked for 8 years alongside WWE Hall of Famer Booker T, actually two-time Hall of Famer Booker T, 35-time wrestling champion, where we talk all things in the world of wrestling and combat sports on our ESPN radio show, The Hall of Fame, or on our YouTube channel, The Reality of Wrestling. You might know me from there. You might have seen me on the Action Industries channel before, but since I'm talking to the Action Army, I feel like I should dress the part. So now, what I want you to be prepared for is on a semi-frequent basis, perhaps weekly, perhaps bi-weekly, I will be coming to this channel with some really awesome interviews. Like today, I'm talking to Rob Reiner. We all know Rob Reiner. Going back to his days in All the Family, we know his father, Carl Reiner. Rest in peace, of course. We also know him from his directorial work such as This Is Spinal Tap, or When Harry Met Sally, or The Princess Bride, or the list goes on. And also, we talk about him working with Andre the Giant. Man, that was some really cool stories that he shared about working with Andre, how Andre got the role, and how he worked with him on the film. So cool, man. And also, I talked to him about being directed by a great director, Martin Scorsese, in The Wolf of Wall Street. All that and more in this segment of my interview with the one and only Rob Reiner, exclusively on the Action Industries channel. Yeah, it's just cool for people to get together for a cause, especially something that they strongly believe in, no matter what, right? It's nice for everyone to get together. And for me, Spinal Tap, so I come from the world of music, and I think that every person who's ever stepped inside of a recording studio at all or has spent any time around music venues has had to have seen Spinal Tap. This is Spinal Tap. And I tell you, Rob, it was an inside joke for years and years and years that I would always say, yeah, but these go to 11. It's one of the great lines in the history of cinema, I think. And the thing is, whenever you're making something like that, did you know that Spinal Tap was going to have that resonance that it had, or were you unsure about it?
No, you never know. You just, you're working on something. You don't know if it's going to be good or not. I mean, we thought it was funny, but I can tell you two things. When we first screened it in Dallas, they thought they didn't understand it. They kept saying to me, "Why would you make a movie about a band that nobody ever heard of, and they're so bad?" and I said, "Well, it's a satire." And the guy who was shooting the film, the cinematographer, he had shot a lot of rock and roll documentaries, and that's why I hired him. And while we were shooting, he kept saying, "I don't understand. What's funny about this? This is exactly what they do." And I said, yeah, but it's a little bent. You have to see that it's not exactly. It's a little bent. So you never know. You never know what people are going to take to or not take to.
Yeah, I think that if you're in on it right from the get-go and you get the joke, kind of like Best in Show or some of those other great mockumentaries in the history of entertainment, it's just such a fun ride, and it's cool that it still is around today. People still want to see that. I mean, I know people have to be so excited for this, as well as the Princess Bride one. Because for me, Rob, I also come from the world of pro wrestling. I spent a lot of time working in pro wrestling, and of course, every pro wrestling fan knows Princess Bride because of Andre the Giant. How was it to work with Andre?
Oh, he was great. I mean, the guy was, the classic gentle giant. I mean, he really was that. I mean, he was the sweetest man, and he was so smart. I mean, really smart guy. He told us stories about when in this town that he was from in France that he used to go to school, that Samuel Beckett would walk him to school. I mean, so these are the kind of influences he had. But he was an amazing guy, and one story, he also could drink pretty good. He was, he liked to drink once in a while. And one day he comes to work, and I said, Andre, what'd you do last night? He says, I went to the bar, had a couple of drinks. I said, well, what do you drink? He says, I had about 6 bottles of wine, 3 bottles of cognac. I said, Jesus. I said, you must have been drunk. He said, no, I don't get drunk. A little tipsy, but not drunk. So He was a great guy though, really sweet guy.
I mean, yeah, that's what everybody says. The drinking stories are legendary, where he would just throw back 100 beers in one sitting and be able to walk out with no problem. What
Yeah.
an anomaly of a human being. And did you find his, because he wasn't a trained actor by any sense of the imagination, but he did come from the world of entertainment, from the pro wrestling aspect. Did you find that him working with him on set in the scripted format, did he take to that well, or did it take a little extra direction?
He did eventually. I was nervous about going with him because he had never acted before, and when he came in and did the audition, I had him read a scene, and I couldn't really understand what he was saying. He was perfect for the part, but it was like impossible. And I said, Andre, this is going to be like a 15-week thing. You're going to be around. And he thought that he had to do 3 pages for 15 weeks. I said, no. You're throughout the whole script. This is just one scene. You're in the whole movie. He says, I do it, boss. And I went, oh, no, I don't know if I could do it. So what I did is I taped his entire performance. I put it on a cassette, and I sent it to him, and he listened to it over and over and over again. By the time he got to the set, he had it down. He had it nailed, and he was so good, because I thought, I'm going to have to loop everything. I'm going to have to replace his dialogue, but he was I didn't have to change a line, and he was perfect.
Oh, I'm sure, man. It was, and what a classic movie and classic performance from him. Rob, though, I said I'm a fan of yours, and I really, truly mean that. And I love your style. Every film that you do, you feel that Rob Reiner style. And even the films that I feel like you choose to act in, they all are big on dialogue and that conversational style. Even going back to
I like character pieces. That's that's what I know. My dad used to say all the time. He just passed away recently, but he always used to say, right, create from where from what you know. In other words, let it be an extension of yourself in some way, and that's the only way I know how to do it. And most of the things I do are character driven. I've done some things that aren't, but most everything I do is that, and that's the only way I know how to create stuff.
And I think it's 100%. I think the reason why I and so many other people like the work that you do, whether it be behind the camera or on screen, even working at a film like The Wolf of Wall Street, that was a big character study about Jordan Belfort, right, and everything that he did. Was it cool for you to, as talented of a director as you are, have to sit there and take direction from somebody like Martin Scorsese?
Well, if you're lucky enough to be in a Martin Scorsese film, you don't. It's easy. I mean, the guy. First of all, he's brilliant. He's obviously one of the great film directors of all time. But he also is smart enough when working with actors to let them go. If he knows an actor can improvise or make it more real, he did. And it's funny because I was talking to Jonah Hill. We became kind of friends after that, and with Leo too. It's like if you're with people who can do that, in other words, can improvise and go back and forth with each other, you can find some of the best stuff that way. I mean, that Spinal Tap was completely improvised, and Marty would always let us do that. And like I say, when you get with good horses, like Jonah was incredible. I mean, he just was easy to just bounce back and forth with. But I was surprised how good Leo was. I mean, he was really comfortable just, improvising and allowing things to find these things. And Marty was amazing at letting you do that. So what a pleasure to work with him.